So let's go up here. First of all, that's not far away anyway. Let's see what this truck can really do. Like, this is a new truck anyway. We've got 4 hours on the clock before we have to rest.
Turn right.
So this is the new Western Star truck.
Keep right.
I was using a Volvo. Neither of those are technically the fastest in the game anyway, because the best ones are actually the old ones. It's kind of weird, but whatever.
Straight. Keep right, and then continue straight.
Let's see what sort of speed this can do with the gearbox and everything.
Continue straight.
It's only a 12-speed gearbox. It gets into 12th pretty early, which is a concern. And I guess it's just aiming to hit around 70 mile an hour rather than anything else, but it means it takes forever to accelerate beyond that point, really. It's definitely no Ellison 10 speed. No, that's right. The external view is no longer scenic because it's far too close in behind the truck, and because we've got a big day cab on, not day cab, big sleeper cab on, you can't see much over the top of it. I prefer just the simple day cab generally, but the problem is that the fuel tank is often tied to the length of the chassis, and for whatever reason, they only put the long chassis on for the sleeper cabs. Otherwise, I'd only have like a 150 gallon tank or something. And when I'm playing casually, I have the realistic fuel consumption turned on, which means when I'm speeding, I'm burning through a lot of it. So, you know. And we have clouds back again. Different kind. We have some cumulus instead of the just strata and stuff. And once again, I didn't notice them appearing. Graphics Duke is speeding in the city kicked in anxiety. That's what makes it fun. But yes, the graphics are scary good now. We got up to 102, that's not bad. 108 is basically what you get as a max speed on the old rigs, the old Peterbilt and Kenworths. So 102 on one of the modern ones isn't bad. It's only a 600 horsepower engine instead of 625. The gear ratio is pretty bad. Yep. Don't mind me. I hope that I just call it the ATS bank.
Turn right.
Brakes are good. Let's just pop in here to discover this.
Let's find a new route. Keep left.
I think my cruise control is set to like 90 or whatever the maximum is. It'll be interesting to see if it is actually maxed out. It's the very top of what's indicated on the dash. No, it's higher than 90. It just doesn't show it as an actual number, so I can't tell what it's actually set to, which is kind of weird. Braked a bit too hard for that corner, but never mind. Alright, now we get some fun twisty roads. Going fast on straight roads is all well and good, but going fast through corners on twisty roads, that's even more fun. what's even more fun is the fact that we're doing this without having any save set up as a safety. I don't know when the last autosave was. This is just seat of our pants. Don't know what I even hit there, other than the edge of the road. I mean, there shouldn't be too much traffic up this way, at least.
Get ready to turn left. Turn left.
Big mine up here, looks like. We can actually just see what deliveries there are from here and just pick up whatever's going, essentially. We can at least see if there's anything going back to somewhere we want to go. Would be nice.
You have arrived at your destination. Your route guidance is now finished.
Speed limit 15, but the GPS says 50. Is there Arizona? There is. Arizona was the first state added, I believe. That's where my base is. I have my headquarters in Flagstaff. Signal Peak Coal Mine. Every time a new map change comes out, I have to start back from Flagstaff again. Like last week, when I was doing some unfinished business in Wyoming, I had to drive all the way back up there. Well, I didn't have to, but I usually prefer to. For when Montana came out, I'd left myself parked near the border, and then I got reset back to Flagstaff, and rather than drive all the way up, I just quick traveled to Sandpoint, I think it was, in the north of Idaho, to then just drive from there into Montana, because it's getting to the point now that things are too far away from Arizona that it takes me an entire stream just to get to start, and so prepping in advance doesn't really help. What I need to actually remember to do is relocate my driver, like move my driver's post to be a place that's right next to where it's going to come out, because then I will get reset back to my garage that I am meant to be based at. And currently that is Flagstaff, but I can move that. It's not just set to where you started, it's just I've never changed. Is there an Interstate 19? Maybe. Go take a look. There's a racetrack just outside of Tucson that I keep thinking would be fun to do as like a do like a 5-lap speedrun of, but okay, so that is that. So now we've just got 2 more viewpoints. That was cool. I like they reflect the big industries that are going on still. We may not like the pollutants that they produce, but they're still pretty necessary for things that we enjoy, so you know. I probably don't want external contracts now because then I'll be going slow. This is technically Billings, even though we're in the middle of nowhere. Yep, nothing to... Once again, I'm really wanting to get to Ava or something. Bend, okay. Grand Canyon. There's all the way down in Arizona. That would take me an hour to drive to, essentially. So we're not going to do that right now. Sorry, but we're not going to do that. There is a highway in Arizona where the signs are in the metric system. Oh, really? That's interesting. That makes no sense, but... I turned everything off. Oops. Reset to default. There we go. There's the 8. There's the 19 down to Nogales. I mean, I imagine the bit at the end there would be in Ks and miles now, because I don't know what they use. I think they use kilometers per hour in Mexico, and Mexico is right there. So that would make sense. But yeah, there's the I-19. So we've come down here. Where were the other 2? There was that one and that one. Of course they're opposite ends of the map. Of course they are. Well, I would like to go to Avra, please. I would also like to go on roads I haven't travelled before, please. But there's not many of those anymore, unfortunately. We could go here first. It's going to try and make that number 1. Checkpoint's only to the end. I don't have a garage up here. I know that that's a recruitment facility, but it then is no longer an undiscovered place, so it gets that off my list.
Ready to roll.
Could be metric in game then. I'm not sure. That might just be based on your settings, because you get the chance in the settings to, like, I can make it so that everything's in metric if I want. I leave it in miles an hour simply because it's more authentic, and I can do the conversions in my head if I really wanted to, but it also doesn't matter. It's just number equals number. You know, if everything's in miles, then you're just doing everything by miles. It makes zero difference. I don't need a converter or anything. So it might be based on that. I don't know whether or not the signs on the sides of the road change based on what your settings are. I probably have some sort of footage of driving that road, but I don't know where it would be in my archive. Actually, that's a really good point in terms of a speedrun idea, though. We should be able to have one pretty much to go from as close to the Canadian border as possible to the Mexican border, because Nogales is basically the Mexican border. There's also a couple of places in California that are, but we've already got too much stuff that goes through California. But if we could find what would be the best place to go from a northern point, then that could be fun. Just go north to south, just border to border. I mean, in future, in, you know, 10 years time or whatever, when we can do coast to coast, that's what I would like to do like a New York to LA or something. Don't think the signs change based on your settings? No, possibly not. I mean, they could. There's no reason why they couldn't, because, you know, you're loading textures. Textures have a certain address. If you just switch it, your target based on that setting, then no reason it couldn't. I mean, there's one way to find out, isn't there? Really. Also, I'm tired, so I'm actually going to have to stop somewhere up here. Yeah, 1 hour 49. It's also getting late, and I don't want to drive through the night, so there is a rest area just around the bend up here, so we're going to stop there. New York to LA in game time. Ooh. I mean, at least in American Truck Simulator, most of it's just on big interstate freeways, right? So it'll be long, but it'll also just be kind of boring because it'll just be big roads. Stop the engine and rest through the night. Currently the longest one we have in this is Roswell to Seattle. And I can't remember what that is in game time actually, off the top of my head. I think it takes about an hour in real time.
Get ready to turn left. Turn left.
And distance-wise, that's basically border to border. It's, you know, because it's going on an angle. So, being that it's going on a diagonal, it's basically, it's not quite the most southeast to most northwest. And that's intentional because I think someone suggested going from Bellingham down to, I can't remember the name, but Las Cruces maybe? But it's like, well, what does that extra distance really give you? Is that particularly interesting? Whereas I like to think of it that you're racing as an alien from Roswell to the Space Needle in Seattle, which is actually your spaceship. Because I'm a kid. It's also quite interesting roads that you go through. Then we have the Pacific Coast Highway one, which is Port Angeles, and initially I made it go to Oxnard because I didn't like driving into LA, because then it's just motorways, it's not very interesting, so it's meant to be more of a Pacific Coast Highway thing. But I've been thinking of reconsidering. No one else has done the run, so I can kind of do whatever I like with it, and no one's really going to care. Like, I can just make mine a misc, or just delete it entirely. I don't really care if I just drop it off. I'll have it on my YouTube, but it doesn't need to be on the leaderboard. But if I wanted to, then I can, yeah, just make it a misc, just so it's still there. Because going Port Angeles to Los Angeles is a bit more interesting. It's, yeah, the Twin Angels. It's just, LA is just so boring, really. It's a case of where do you stop? I think the idea also is RTA, Oxnard is on the northern border anyway. I didn't actually end up doing an RTA run, I don't think. I did IGT and like plotted out where all of the service warp points would be. And once again, like many things, never got around to going back and actually executing it in RTA. Even as a rough run, which is a bit regrettable. But being a long run, it is difficult to find a good time to actually dedicate to that. It was hard enough just finding a good chunk of time to do some runs on Elko San Diego and Reading Yuma again.
Keep right, and then continue straight.
How long is this going to take us? 10 minutes or so?
Keep right, and then continue straight.
Yeah, we're just doing free roam exploration now, which is fun. I like that you can just do this. You don't have to take a delivery with you if you don't want. You can just drive around in your truck.
Keep right.
You're not going to earn your money, but that's what AI drivers are for. Once again, can't remember and can't tell what my cruise control is actually set to, but we can try and increase it. It's probably set to like 150 by now, which we're never going to reach. We can do about 100 mile an hour through here. Something for the Explorsica. Use a new account to complete. Huh?
Keep right.
Could we use a new account to complete it? Like what's being done down in ACC? ACC? You could use a new account if you wanted to. I don't see a good reason for doing that necessarily. I mean, you kind of have to use a new account, sort of, because otherwise it's explored, right? If you've already been there, you know, you need to create a new profile, unfortunately, and set it up in such a way and just have a save that you can revert to. I mean, we could just have a saved game that's zipped up and provided on the website. That would just be a case of, hey, you know, download this and put this in a profile directory and it should work, sort of thing. Would probably be a good thing to do. But otherwise, you could just start a new game in Nice or whatever. But ideally, you want to have like the best truck and stuff. So if you want to do like a pure new profile one, then it would be a case of you would have to start in one of the cities there, I guess, or start in one of the places that you take a ferry, one of the two. And then you'd have to figure out what to do with your first delivery because you can't cancel it. And you either have to drive around with it if you still want to use service warping, or you have to leave it behind and then you can't service warp except back to where your trailer is.
Go straight.
In the city in the middle, of course, go explore north, TV back, explore south. Oh yeah, you could do that. I mean, there's nothing in the current rule set to stop you doing that. Like, we could add a separate variable for new profile instead of new game plus, which is what we've done for some of the... it kind of did as an experiment. I think someone was asking on the forums or something for ATS whether or not there was a way to do it from a new profile instead of having to have one set up. So I kind of held it, sort of. So I experimented with the idea of a new profile run, and it kind of works. So you do have some interesting considerations to have to think of, and it's easy to add as a new variable. It doesn't belong on the same board, but it can be a split board.
Go straight. Keep right, and then continue straight.
The annoying thing with new profile runs is it just becomes very reset heavy because you're trying to get the right job, essentially. Like, for ones where you're wanting to take the trailer with you to be able to... I thought there was a service station around here, that's why I came this way. No. Oh, well, never mind, we've just got truck damage. Whatever. As long as we still have 12th gear, that should be fine. What was I saying? If you want to still be able to service warp, then you want to have a light trailer, because even though your truck will generally be less powerful when you start with a light trailer, once you get up to speed, then it doesn't matter. And then you can service warp and you'll accelerate faster with a lighter trailer, even though the truck is less powerful. If it was one like that, then you would actually want to figure out what's the heaviest delivery that you could start with, and then just dump the trailer, and you'd always just warp back to where you started from, or where the trailer is. But yeah, you'd want to make sure that you've got the most powerful truck, I guess. Wasn't sure it would comply with the rules. I mean, it would, even as it is. Like, it would not be competitive against other runs that are on the leaderboard for the same category as it currently stands. But there is no reason that you could not do that. And if you did do that, then as I think the best thing to do would be to split it off, because it would not be as competitive as a New Game Plus run. Would be to split it off and have it be a separate new profile run where the strategy is that you start. Time would start as soon as you start moving, basically, because you've already explored the tile that you're on, essentially. It just becomes a bit... New profile runs they're an interesting novelty. They, on the one hand, require less setup, obviously, initially, which is good. Again, the thing we can do to make life easier is to actually have a save game. The problem then is doing it by game version and stuff, but that's possible as well. I also don't know whether or not save games are as easily transferable between different distributions of the game. Like, if there are minor differences between one from North America versus England or versus Europe or something like that. Different localized versions, whether or not they actually are as easily transferable. Like, if I uploaded one of my saved games, whether or not it would be kind of funky when someone else tried to load it, I just don't know. I think it could be competitive with the current strat. I disagree, because you just have no control over what truck you have. Because, currently you can have the best truck. You can get the Volvo with the gearbox and everything all tailored to your liking. Whatever is actually the best for that. I suspect that probably the 6-speed is actually better for the purpose of that speed run, rather than the 12 or whatever it is. But the point is that you can tailor the truck to exactly what you want it to be. Whereas with the new profile you cannot, because you just don't have any of that. You have to rely on what you get given for your first delivery. And that's just far more volatile. It's very unlikely that you would get, because if you do get one of the, like a truck with a better engine and stuff, if you get a heavy cargo, so you get a good engine, but you'll get a gearbox for hauling heavy cargo, which will be a bad ratio. It'll be an 18 speed with a low top speed.
Turn right.
You always get the best truck that you set as a favorite. Yes, you get the model, but again, what they give you as the best is not what is actually the best for a speedrunning context, right? So it might be a good engine, it might be the best engine. It'll probably be a garbage gearbox for going fast. It'll be good for pulling cargo. Those are two very different things.
Good driving.
Good driving, he says, as I limp along with 30% damage. Or whatever I'm up to now. 27, close enough. I've not been paying close attention to this driving, it must be said. To no one's surprise.